Hey everyone, it's Jessie. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my January wrap-up. Without further ado, let's just hop right in. I read 7 books in the month of January, the first one of which being Their Fractured Life by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This book is the 3rd book in the Starbound trilogy, the first book being These Broken Stars. I was so thrilled to finally finish this trilogy. This book was a fantastic conclusion. I really love how this series has different characters in each book and they all come together and conclude in the end. I would rate this book about a 4 out of 5 stars. My favorite book in this series is the first book. I feel like nothing can beat These Broken Stars. If you haven't picked up this series yet, I definitely recommend it. One of my favorite sci-fi series of all time. Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner's writing just works so well together. It's just, they can do sci-fi no wrong. They are so good. Now, just a disclaimer, most of the books that I read this month, I didn't have much time to sit down and read it all. I mostly listen to audiobooks. Usually I listen to audiobooks while I'm doing homework or other such things. So the second book I read, I actually did sit down with the audiobook and the book multiple times to get through this book. Other times I was busy doing other tasks and stuff. I read The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This book has to deal with Russian folklore and this girl named Vasilina coming to terms with her ability from childhood through growing up. So I really enjoyed this book. If you are a fan, I would say, of like Anastasia and books and stories kind of like that and Russian folklore in general, I really recommend this book. I think I rated it about a 4 out of 5 stars and the sequel is now out, so I really hope to pick that one up soon. The 3rd book I finished was Zenith the Andromeda Saga by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. Now I apologize if I'm being really brief about talking about each of these books, but if I did a full review for each of them, we would be sitting here forever. I did, however, do a full review for Zenith, so I will be sure to link it down below if you want to know more of my thoughts. I rated this book about a 3.8 out of 5 stars, so if you guys want to know more of my thoughts, I will link my review down below. This book is basically like Star Wars meets Guardians of the Galaxies with a female crew in space, so if that sounds appealing to you, then I would definitely check it out. Next book I finished, I don't know why, I wasn't too much a fan of this book, and I feel bad for saying that because like I love Batman, but that book was Batman Nightwalker by Marie Lu. So recently I read my first Marie Lu book last year, which was Warcross, and I adored that book. I loved it, and it was my first book by Marie, so I was super excited when this was coming out very soon, and I was definitely going to pick it up. Unfortunately, I wasn't too much a fan of it. I just felt like it was kind of slow in some parts and boring. I wasn't a fan of the storyline. I think I would rate this book like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm definitely can't wait to read more in this series though, the collaboration with young adult authors and the DC icons. I still need to read Wonder Woman Warbringer, and then I can't wait for Catwoman and Superman. Superman's my like all-time fave ever since I was little. I always watched the original Superman movies with Christopher Reeves, so I cannot wait for that book. And also I hope to read more Marie Lu books in the future because I do really like her writing. The next book I finished was The Art and the Making of the Greatest Showman, foreword by Michael Gracie, text by Signe Bergstrom. Don't know how to say that name. Anyways, I really enjoyed this book. What's really cool about it is it goes on and tells you all about the making of The Greatest Showman. In case you guys didn't know, I love that movie. I saw it 5 times in theaters. Bit obsessive much, but I had a movie pass, so it's okay. This book was just so beautiful. It gives you so much insight and writing about how the movie was made and how it came to be, and I just was baffled by how much detail and some of the efforts that were put into this movie, and it just makes you appreciate the cinematography and everything much more. Also knowing that this movie took 9 years in total to be made, which blows my mind. So I think I would rate this book about like a 4.3 out of 5 stars. The one reason I found that it was lacking was because I feel like there wasn't much technical details about how the filming was made. I want more of like the hands-on. It was repetitive a bit and kept telling you about the storyline and stuff as if you're reading this book before you were seeing the movie, but like I've seen the movie lots of times, so I would have liked to know more in-depth, more filming secrets, stuff like that, but it was still a really informative book and I really enjoyed it. And definitely if you are a huge fan of The Greatest Showman like me, then this is one to put on your list. Stunning book with so much behind the scenes art pieces and pictures. It's just woo, glorious. Next up, after watching The Phantom of the Opera for my very first time in December, I really wanted more of The Phantom of the Opera in my life, and since it's not currently playing near me on Broadway, the next best thing was picking up this book, which is kind of like a gender-swapped Phantom of the Opera retelling. It's called Roseblood by A.G. Howard. It's about this girl whose father died and she has all these gifts and abilities and she's being sent away to a opera opera training school-ish type place called Rosebud, where there are rumors of the Phantom, and obviously she kind of believes them and some stuff goes down, and I really enjoyed this book. I would say if you aren't a fan of the Phantom of the Opera, you might not get a lot of things in it. It might not be a book for you. I would only recommend this to massive fans of Phantom of the Opera because I feel like they would just appreciate it that much more. And so I really enjoyed this story. Thorn was just so swoon worthy. I love the characters in it. I would rate this book probably a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you so much, Kaden, for making me read this book. Also, thank you for Owl Crate for having this book in one of their boxes, or else I wouldn't have had it to read. Last but not least, if you remember how I said in my previous videos, one of my reading goals for 2018 is to read one classic a month. I achieved that goal in January and I read The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Now, so many people were recommending this book to me and telling me to read it since it's a huge classic. For some reason, I just really couldn't like this book. I don't know why. My neighbors are pulling out the driveway and staring at me right now. I just felt like the main character, Holden, was like really whiny and mopey and depressed. I already have enough stuff going on in my life. I don't like to read about somebody else complaining 24/7 and repeating themselves. It doesn't make sense to me why people like this book. I understand that it's like a huge ordeal that this was like one of the first teenage coming of age stories published and well known, but to me, I like to read to get away from moping and complaining in the real world. So I wasn't a fan of this book too much. I did really enjoy the writing and like the first half of the book, but then Holden just kept getting on my nerves. So I would rate this book about a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm hoping that I enjoy my classic pick for next month a lot more than this one. I really wanted to like this book. I couldn't. That is my final thoughts on this book. So that pretty much concludes my wrap up for January. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you did. I'm Jessie, and I will see you next time. Bye!